Take it away, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Jaydeep, and we've been building Lido impact staking. And I suppose we'll start with the Lido bit, in that Lido is one of the most successful crypto D applications in the world. And the idea of taking that and purposing it to fund real world impact is what Lido impact staking is about. We've got the graveyard shift, and so therefore I don't want to do slides. We'll just talk about the app that's live, and the different use cases. It's really simple. You use your staking returns and you donate a proportion of that, whatever you're comfortable with, between 1 and 100%, to fund real world social impact. And the idea in impact staking and Lido impact staking has sort of two trunk parts. The first part is the idea of a donor becoming an impact staker. So they're not giving away their money anymore. They're keeping it. They're staking it with Lido impact staking, and they're donating the opportunity cost or a percentage of it in their staking rewards to a social impact cause. And what this means is that as a donor, you're always hit up for more money, and this stops that cycle because you're keeping your money and you're donating the stake return. On the impact project side, we are working with partners, and you're going to hear from Give directly, who actually use staking rewards through Lido impact staking to fund their work. They have to have programs that can capture a unit of impact and connect it to the staking return. It's not about building a bridge with impact staking returns is a bad idea. Supporting direct cash transfers, connecting schools, and planting trees to sequester carbon is a good idea, because the impact data is really, really tangible. You can register any social impact project on Lido impact staking, but we commit and ask that projects demonstrate with the model we've built with UNICEF how they're going to use those staking returns. Bearing in mind, ETH is a volatile asset. It goes up and down. That means your returns are going to go up and down. So how are you going to model and work that impact? And I think the other bit I want to talk about before handing over to Ilan and his very real world use case, apologies if you can hear my kids in the background, is the idea that anyone can work with Lido impact staking in terms of if they want to fund their social impact this way, then it's all they have to do is register. But we've tried to incorporate the values of Lido in that, which is absolute transparency on how that money is going to go. Launch nodes don't take custody of anything. The smart contract address means that if an impact staker wants to support you, then that money goes directly to that social impact project and their wallet address, and they have that to spend. If Whole Sky wasn't on fire, I would demonstrate the app, but it's very, very simple. The take banana to the world is again part of this different TVL that we're looking to get, and I'll talk about the non-banana world first. We think that corporate CSR and philanthropic capital, which there's lots and lots of, is really interested in a real world crypto use case. We're not funding public goods. Well, I mean, it's permissionless, so we might, but the real focus is on real world and real people, and taking the engine of Lido, which is world class and also has the very best intentions at heart, both in terms of decentralizing Ethereum and finding use cases like this, and purposing it. And so that TVL is something we're working with. We also realize there are people who have smaller amounts of capital and would like to support the initiative, and incentives are the watchword of our industry. And so as we're doing real world impact, we thought we'd give you a real piece of duct tape and a real banana, and you can stick it on your wall and take a photo and share it. And that's our incentive. You don't have to do that, but if you do, you can claim after impact staking and provide an address that you want us to send the banana and the duct tape to, and we'll do it. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm actually going to focus on the use case of this, which is Ilan and Give Directly. Before I do that, I wanted to just say that we have created a front door, which I will share now, that means the projects working with us don't need to focus on the technology. Like Lido's done that, and we present them a branded page whereby, just like they'd take PayPal payments, they can now start saying to their donor base and their community, we receive staking returns. And the safety of that is because it's done by the best operators in the world. Without further ado, I will hand over to Ilan from Give Directly to explain how he uses ETH staking returns to fund his work and what his work is.
Amazing. Thanks, Jaydeep. And good to meet you all. So my name is Ilan. I'm part of the Give Directly team. And for those of you who don't know, similar to a lot of what you're talking about, we like to keep it simple as well. We basically take cash from donors and we give it to people in extreme poverty. And so when we're talking about extreme poverty, it's typically people living on what the World Bank's definition of $2.15 or less a day. So talking about a pretty inhumane deprivation of basic human needs, safe food with typically one meal a day, or safe drinking water, typically 1 mile or miles away from where you're living. And so originally the concept of impact staking was super appealing to our team. We were trying to innovate on the aid sector that was sort of slower to innovate than other industries, and something that was focusing on transparent solutions to figure out better ways to get money from people with a lot of money to people with very little money was super appealing to us. And so when we heard about a group pushing for sort of like decentralized and transparent platform to do so, we thought it would be a great match. So just a little bit of background more on Give Directly. We're basically solving for this problem of still 690 million people living on less than $2.15 a day. And that number of people continues to rise in sub-Saharan Africa. And we think throughout the time of the aid sector, we've sort of overcomplicated how we give, a donor giving to an international HQ NGO that then gives to a local NGO, and one more local NGO, and then to recipients. And sort of our model is as direct as it gets. Is we have a donor, we give that cash to recipients, and we sort of trust them and give them the autonomy and dignity to choose for themselves. And so cash is among the most studied aid interventions in history. So we've seen through our programs, we've run 20 randomized control studies, which is sort of the gold standard in research within the NGO space, and have seen increased consumption, investments in assets, both in the short term and long term. In a program where we sent about 17% of local GDP, we saw negligible inflation and a 2.5x fiscal multiplier in the local economy in Siaya County, Kenya. We've compared it to other interventions where it's outperformed job training, nutrition program, and aspirations workshop. And we've seen a lot of it also just drive expansion of existing businesses. When you give someone, 2 to 3 years salary all at once, they have, the capital to actually invest in themselves and not just wait for a smaller amount of money to come through the door. And so to make it like a bit more real, you'll have, 2 examples of recipients with completely different stories of Bertha, who's from Malawi, has a child with, a severe disability, needs to get to the hospital. And these are people that can't afford the hospital bill, let alone getting to the hospital, versus someone who needs a safe roof because water's leaking through their roof and their kids are getting sick. And so I think for decades, experts around the world have been trying to figure out what's the best way to help people. But the truth is people in extreme poverty are pretty good at knowing what they need. And we think cash sort of enables that choice. How we work is also pretty simple. I'll try to break it down in 4 steps. We essentially first target individuals, and that looks like a couple different things. We typically use government census data to do so, and as well as telecom database. So we're giving people money through mobile phones, and so they'll get a notification on their cell phone. If they don't have a phone, we'll get them a phone, and it comes out of a portion of their transfers, but these are very standard cheap phones. And the majority of our staff live in the areas we work in. And so we'll go village by village enrolling staff, with staff enrolling recipients, and we host community meetings to let people know about cash transfers coming in. These are called barazas or huriros. And again, this isn't to tell them how to spend their money. The concept of Give Directly is unconditional, no strings attached cash. And so we'll then deliver those funds to recipients through mobile phones. And in some cases, we're giving people their first ever national ID so they can get a bank account, and they will typically cash that out at a local money agent. Lastly, as I mentioned, with the research that we're doing, we'll make sure to monitor how things are going. We provide a hotline and digital follow-up surveys for people. But again, this isn't to influence what the money is being spent on, but it's more to provide an opportunity for people to report on any issues or see any trends in different spaces that we're working in. And so this opportunity was, I mean, it seemed a little too good to be true. And when we came in 2020, we became involved in the blockchain kind of organically. Individuals started sending a lot of cryptocurrency 2020, 2021. And it made up a pretty big portion of our donations from individuals. And I think a lot of the things that aligned in that space were the sort of decentralization of our work in general and giving people individual agency. It was also sort of a market-based approach. And it also overlapped with a lot of our community that was already donating because maybe they were in the effective altruist community or wanted to see efficient ways to get aid over to the people who need it most. And so this has been a really exciting experience for us, and I'm happy to answer any questions on our work specifically. We've operated in about 15 countries now since we've started, and are set to deliver our billionth dollar this year. And so I'm very excited for this, and I think, you know, both selfishly from my donors who I know are going to be really excited about another innovative solution to get cash to people. It sort of seems like it's a natural fit for a lot of people that have already asked questions about different ways they can be using the wealth they've created within Ethereum or within just this general ecosystem to actually get cash more efficiently to people in like different innovative ways. So just want to thank you for having me here, and happy to answer any questions that could be useful.
Yeah, thanks, Ilan. That was really great. You as well, Jaydeep. The first question I have to ask everyone is wondering, like, how do you transfer the cash? Like, what do you use? What system do you use for that?
Yeah, so we'll use mobile money when we transfer cash. So when people are giving us cash, and let's say they're giving within crypto, if they're giving within crypto to one of our many crypto wallets currently, what we're doing is we are, you know, converting that money immediately and then sending it over as cash. And then people sending it over as through mobile money, and then people with their phones will cash out at local money agents that are around villages. And so they're typically within pretty quick walking distances. And the rise of mobile money throughout East Africa was like one of the many lucky things that came at the time that Give Directly was starting up. And the amount of people that already do have phones within the places that we're working makes it much easier for us to just transfer this money over via phone.
And this is like mobile money is stuff like M-Pesa.
Exactly, that's right. Where it really took off in Kenya at the beginning of Give Directly's work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was actually in a previous life involved in microloans in India and Indian they're called slums, but
yeah,
they're not slums actually. But the problem with microloans is that like they're very administratively there's a lot of work in it. There's a lot of labor involved in getting these microtransactions done, and like this was pre mobile money
right.
as well, definitely pre blockchain. So that's really interesting. So what other income sources? Well, not sources, but like where are you finding your donors generally? Because you've been at it quite a while already.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it's evolved quite a bit over time. I think the concept of cash, I think especially during COVID in the US, when people were getting, you know, transfers sent to them, I think helped a lot with getting our messaging out there. But I think when we started, there was a lot of people within the effective altruist community that were sort of into this idea of like really efficient ways to flip the sector on its head, that was sort of tech first, using mobile money to do so. But I think it's grown to a broader audience as well over time. I think just the concept of giving cash and people seeing it happen in their own backyards and then saying, oh, wow, this dollar would go a lot further in rural Malawi. Maybe I can send it there as well. But I'd say it's a combo of, you know, institutional partners and corporations that are also giving. And then a pretty big chunk of our donors are within the general like tech ecosystem, not just within, you know, the blockchain and crypto space, also within just the tech industry. We also have a lot of folks within the hedge fund and finance like umbrellas as well that do care a lot about, you know, cost per dollar of where they're donating and how that's actually being allocated. And so I think our low administrative cost was a big appeal to those people as well. We also have people who just really love the concept of, you know, letting people in poverty choose best what they want to do with their money. And so I think that sort of scales across a pretty broad range of people as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ilan,
it makes total sense to me. Like this was, I think, when I was a kid, this was the naive way of thinking. What when, you know, we raise money for people in poverty, like in the 80s, you had these for Africa. Like we talked about Michael Jackson before this call. He would do a what's it called? Anyway, he would sing for Africa, and I thought they would just send the money there, but apparently that's not how they did it. But like this naive way of doing it it makes total sense to me, because if you have just barely any money and someone gives you $10, you're going to stretch that to wherever you can, like much better than someone from another part of the world can imagine you should be spending it on. It's definitely interesting. Jaydeep, if I can switch back to you, but you mentioned anyone can register. So anyone who's like Give Directly can sign up for the platform. Like, how does that work in transparency terms? If anyone can sign up and people are natively skeptical in crypto world, so they want to verify, not trust. How does that work if anyone can join?
So the application process and when you apply, that's made public. In addition to that, we ask questions about who's verifying your impact data. So when you're in effectively a marketplace of organizations that are looking to support you, and the idea of this front page and this kind of dedicated page comes to an organization that's gone through that, and that data is available and it's verifiable. I think that the idea that Give Directly has, disrupted and changed international development and the concepts in it. We hope that there are going to be new projects, and we're really, really excited about grassroots economics and the idea of community pooling, which is something that will be on Liz shortly. And I think that the idea that if the organization that's listed isn't compelling in what they're saying they're going to do with the staking return, well, then us as stakers won't donate. I mean, I think, Ilan, of every dollar that gets sent to you, 89 cents goes as direct cash transfers to the target audience. That's compelling. And we're visualizing that impact data in terms of direct cash transfers and also the tree planting that we're doing. So, when you donate X amount, this is how much carbon sequestration has come to it. And whilst we haven't finalized it, and I think carbon markets are still not as liquid as we'd like, if in the event that that model allows us to get a verified carbon credit that can be traded in a liquid context, then we would obviously offer that back to those who have impact staked. And the incentive wouldn't simply be a banana with some duct tape.
Yeah, that's a great bridge to the banana, because I was a bit skeptical that you're going to be sending bananas and duct tape all over the world to people and to draw them to impact staking projects. But it's just one of the routes, obviously. I don't think people are going to go to launch nodes and see where they can give their money, because Give Directly is like doing this 24/7, trying to reach people and trying to connect to people who want to donate. And you're basically giving them another alley, another option to donate. It's just one of the many options that I assume you have. This option gives an APR. It gives interest. It seems completely different than the other options, I assume, just sending money. How does that work? Can you just offer APR? You're going to get difficult questions from a legal point of view, financial products you're now that you now have on your front page as well. How does that work?
Well, I'll try and answer that before handing over to Ilan. And I would say that it's really hard to give money away, what we've learned in terms of connecting to exciting projects and organizations, especially when they are, albeit as disruptive and great as Give Directly is, they do have a legal process. They do have things. And so our mechanism has worked in two different ways. One is that the smart contracts and the lack of an intermediary means that a donor is connecting directly to Give Directly through the Lido Impact Staking application and sending money directly to their wallet. It's not going to launch nodes or to Lido Impact Staking or anyone else. And then the second bit is that there is no real APR that that is being offered by Give Directly. It's being done by Lido Impact Staking, and this is a mechanism to donate. And you can, as I said, donate 1% or 100%. The idea that Give Directly is offering a financial product isn't true, because it's very clear who's doing the staking, and that this is a not-for-profit initiative. So I think we haven't had that issue in terms, and we're working with a number of multilaterals right now, and family offices. That hasn't come up yet. And from a regulatory perspective, because you're donating a staking return, actually the amount in every single donation, which is catalogued, and there's a tax reporting tool. So if you become an impact staker and you're doing it in a way that means it's of usefulness for you to get a tax rebate on what you've donated, you can do that, and that report generates within your dashboard. So we haven't, I think the answer is it hasn't been positioned to us that we're suggesting that Give Directly are offering a financial services product, because of the fact that we're kind of positioning it as being part of Lido.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, if you look at the page, you can see you're staking your ETH that you already have. I think you're not going so far as to offer a US dollar onboarding ramp to people to buy ETH and stake it right there, because that would be a whole world of mess right there. But this is really cool. I think it's amazing that like, it's often so abstract what we're all doing in Ethereum. Like DeFi is one of the most practical applications we have, and even that is just, I mean, what are we even doing? Sometimes it's weird, and it's I think it's great when it touches the real world and touches real problems and touches actual people. In a global sense, it's on the other side of the world. At least for me, it depends on where you live, of course, but that's the way global works. I think this is great. This is one example. You've got 2 more examples on your site, so I encourage people to look at that. Are there any other ones you want to touch on, or are there more in the pipeline coming up, Jaydeep?
Yeah, we have a virtual forest whereby you can donate a percentage of your staking returns, and that those, whatever you donate will be used to plant trees, and you can see the carbon sequestration of that. And we're working with a couple of multilaterals right now, which are part of the UN framework to support them. And again, their work and the projects they'll be listing are very much about that idea of a staking reward, and there's a modular unit of impact rather than generically sort of giving. And I think that's really important. And we've been working for 4 years in a solo staking capacity to donate ETH staking returns to fund internet connectivity in schools. And that's a widely covered project with UNICEF and EF.
That's great. I'm afraid we're out of time, Jaydeep, but I want to thank you and Ilan as well for this presentation. Really cool. Launch nodes, also one of our curated node operators. Very happy to have them. Very happy with this presentation. And I think I have to wrap it up from here.